Welcome. In this video, we'll review a utility called TestHttpClient and how to use it. TestHttpClient is a command line tool based on Java to execute HTTP and HTTPS requests. It's aimed for testing and troubleshooting integrations. It can be used, for example, on a mid-tier server or on an AR server, regardless of its operating system or headless modes. Using plain text files, you can describe multiple HTTP requests and execute them in sequence. Standard SSL encryption is usable with well-known Java SSL flags. If you use Postman, this is a great replacement or companion tool. There are several command line execution options. As any program in a jar file, use the syntax java-jar testhttpclient.jar and the mandatory parameter file name. This will run the program in silent mode, where all the requests in the file provided will be performed, and the only output would be the errors to the console, if any. The additional options are meant for troubleshooting, such as debug HTTP that will show the HTTP traffic, and debug SSL that will show the SSL handshake process. Both flags are optional and can be entered in any order. Other Java flags are feasible, such as keystores and thruster parameters. Now that we know how to run this utility, let's focus on how to create the text files for TestHttpClient. The format of these files is very close to HTTP request definition. Any request can be described with a few sections such as the verb, get, post, put, delete, a URL, headers, if needed, a blank line, and a body. In that regards, this is a valid example. Just go and get this resource from that server. Let's see what the log produced. We can see the verb and the URI. 4 headers are introduced automatically. Then the server replies with HTTP 200 status, headers, and some content. If we want to describe multiple requests, just separate them with ##. In this execution, we can see 2 requests and their corresponding responses. Now that we know how to create multiple requests, it would be valuable to reuse information, such as the server name, in case we want to use this script in another environment. For that, you can define variables as @variable name, or you can read a variable with double curly brace and the variable name in between. This script execution is the same as the last one, but it's easier to maintain and reuse. In order to help troubleshoot performance or sporadic issues, define a special variable called @repetition, and the request following it will be repeated that number of times. In this execution, the first request is repeated 2 times and the second one 3 times. As mentioned earlier, a request that needs a body also needs an empty line in between headers and the body. After the headers, the empty line, enter the payload in the format requires. Of course, this depends on your service request. In this request, we're sending information to the AR server to return a token. Once data comes back from the server, parts of the response may be useful to issue new requests. Marks the ends of this request is $sign. This means the request is completed, but before moving on to the next one, we would like to capture parts of the response as variables. TestHttpClient generates 3 variables for us: response text, response status, and response header. We can use any of those variables after the $sign to capture information from the response as variables. Let's see how that looks in the logs. In that way, there is no need to copy and paste a token as you may do in other clients. In order to send attachments, just use the $sign followed by a path such as this. Once executed, the logs show attachments transferred in binary format. Thank you for your time.